Good day, beloved. It's hard to believe that we're at day 4, but here we are. Now, I'd like to address myself to the keeners who have not only persevered, but likely you've thought about what we've done. So in day 2, we talked about the first reason for inhibiting in us in terms of progress in God's plan. And we said from chapter 1, verse 1 in Judges, the whole idea of having somebody professional look after our spiritual development as opposed to taking responsibility for itself. And we said it was the expression, who will fight for us? And then in the third day, we talked about the second reason for the confinement of God's people in terms of being involved in his program and developing and taking responsibility. And we remembered in chapter 2, verse 10, that these people had no personal experience of God's intervention, of God's present and dynamic moving in their lives and in their own personal history. And so they didn't have a point of reference. God wasn't significant and important to them in terms of their overall life. And now you who are keeners will think that, of course, we should turn to chapter 3. In fact, my expectation is many of you will read ahead to try and determine what there is in chapter 3 as a reason to have us stalled in our spiritual experience. But the next reason is so important, it's actually mentioned twice. But it's not mentioned in chapter 3. It's chapter 17 in verse 6 and chapter 21 in verse 25 where it's mentioned. And the expression says, everyone did that which was right in their own eyes. Now, this is a kind of cultural norm that seeps into our way of thinking. In fact, we've introduced it through the medium of song. If those old people who are following our devotional along will remember Frank Sinatra, you'll remember him singing, "I Did It My Way," with an emphasis upon having self-determination and not letting anybody tell him what to do, including God. And this was the expression of the people of God in the book of Judges during that time. In fact, this unwillingness to surrender to God, this unwillingness to have anybody but themselves be significant and important in their lives is something that seems to be a universal trend these days, even politically, almost across the world. But most prominently, we know it from our experience of the leadership in our southern neighbor. You'll remember that the President of the United States stood on a platform and said it will be America first from now on, and that will dictate all the international policies that America will embrace in the days that lie ahead during his tenure as president. And so there's this big push for self-determination. There's this big push for me first and me alone being the self-determining factor about what we do. And it is a recurring theme, and it is what crippled the people of God from achieving his purposes in terms of the promised land. In fact, we'll know that this experience takes the whole book of Judges. In fact, not until we get to the first book of Samuel do we discover that the people of God are willing to recognize the problem that this has created and to solve it, almost solve it. God's intention was that Israel would be a theocracy in which God would rule over the lives and hearts and actions of each and every individual in Israel. But in in 1 Samuel, the first book of Samuel, we discover it's here that through an intermediary, the people of God surrender themselves to the now king, and will do so over the United Kingdom period. And it is during this time that Israel achieves the zenith of their accomplishments. Their accomplishments geographically in terms of their landmass, their accomplishments in terms of their success and prosperity. in terms of their spiritual development, and it's during this time, of course, that the temple, the sacrificial system, all of those dynamics take place and forge this great people of God in a new, exciting way. So now it's our opportunity to take out our measuring tape. What's the most important determining factor when we have to make a decision? We have to take a direction. We have to maybe have an opinion on a moral issue. Is it ourselves, our self-interest, our best case scenario for ourselves, or is it really the program of God? Let's spend some time in reflection on that. I hope this is a wonderful day in which God will give you insight, and He'll give you comfort, and He'll give you assurance that He's working for your best interest, and to surrender to Him is to experience His best in your life. Blessings.